guess, but anyway. All right, so I think I need something to speak from. Get my Bible, that'll help. We're going to be looking at Titus Chapter 2, and just a reminder, Pastor Aaron mentioned this maybe a half an hour ago now. There's an empty nesters activity. He showed me the sign up, said you can sign up at the front desk, but you have to pay when you sign up. So, I don't know if you make sure there's gold ink in your pen and we just peel it off there and it counts. But so it is $35 per couple. But he said it's here. I don't know what they're bringing in or producing, but it's per couple. So empty nesters activity, Monday, February 8th, and he announced it. He'll announce some more as it comes up for you guys. All right. Actually, me and Dr. Mitchell are going to be teaching this 5-week series. And as we thought about what to teach, I had just finished, when we were skipping through the Bible in Sunday school, noticing that the word sober is in Titus chapter 2 4 times, and it's only 15 times in the Bible. And these verses at the beginning of Titus chapter 2 kind of struck me. And some of the study I was doing at that time stuck with me some. And so I thought it would be good for us to go over these things. And so what we're going to do, I'm going to, I've really been thinking about this. I don't know exactly what word to use, so I just fell in with the word the Bible gives. So I'm going to be teaching on verse 3, 4, and 5, where it addresses the aged women. I didn't want to say old, I didn't mature, distinguished, aged, whatever. I'm just going with the Bible. So if you don't like that term, take it up with the Bible. So anyway, but I'm going to be teaching through this passage, verses 3, 4, and 5, this week, in 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks after that. The weeks 1, 3, and 5. Dr. Mitchell, I assigned him one verse for the 2 weeks in between. He's going to be teaching on the aged men, and if he runs out, he'll come up with something else. But we're together working through this passage, and as we look at it, we see that it is really, really very important for us in our day, and it applies to homes. It's not directly applied to homes, but it very much applies to homes because of what we'll be looking at. Because the idea is there's aged men, aged women, younger men, and there's this there's designed, it is not explicit, but it's supposed to be, there is explicit, designed interaction in the women's side of that and assumed in the men's side of that. So let's go ahead and read the first 5 verses of Titus chapter 2. The Bible says there, "But speak thou the things which become sound doctrine." Paul's writing to Titus, "that the aged men be sober, grave, temperate, sound in faith, in charity, in patience. The aged women likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed." Verse 6, "Young men likewise exhort to be sober-minded." So there's these 4 groups in the church there, and Paul's instruction to Titus on how to help those groups. So the book of Titus is, written from Paul to Titus. Paul had sent Titus to the island of Crete, and the island of Crete was a wild place, we might just say, very unruly, not sophisticated, very uncivilized, and we see that by the things that he's telling Titus helping him deal with, but and not to get into all that, but just to know Titus is dealing with an unruly bunch, a very uncivilized and wild bunch, and so their sins are on the wild side, but there's believers there, there's Christians there, and as it turns out, the island of Crete has a lot of harbors in it, and a lot of the world goes through Crete because the shipping can go to there, and then they can move on from there. So there's a lot of Christians there, but they grew up with this different type of background. Paul gives Titus some things to do. In chapter 1, he has to appoint some new leadership, and he talks about qualifications for pastors there. And he talks about how to confront some corrupt leaders. Then in chapter 2, we see these things and a few more that we might say relate to households. And then chapter 3, some instructions toward Christians, and especially that some of the ideas that Christians should be the ideal citizens. In this context, we do have instructions to the aged men, to the aged women, and then instruction to the young women. And if you notice, the young women are supposed to get their instruction from the aged women, So that's an interesting point there, and we'll pick up on that some more the next time we're together. But Paul tells Titus, teach these guys, teach them to teach these gals, and then teach these guys. So it's kind of a unique thing there, and I want to help us look at that and challenge us on that point in particular. Teach the young men, Titus himself, and then there's the slaves, or we might say some instructions related to the workplace in our context today. And then I want to just, before we actually get into it, I want us to think about the current context, our contemporary context, our Fairhaven context. How does this passage fit in what I'm going to say about it, or what I think is there for us to take from it and apply to ourselves? How does it fit with us today? And I think that you may not understand where I'm coming from, so just please be patient with me. In the world today, we see that the world and all of its glory, its glamour, is available to people much earlier and with much more power than at any other age, spoken like a true preacher. It's worse now than ever. Okay, all preachers say that. But in my lifetime, and in my notes, I even put a smiley face there. I realize that, everybody, it's always the worst. It's always the worst. But at the same time, I think think about all the pulls that the world has. You don't have to go to the mall to see them. You don't have to go to a certain part of town to see them. You don't have to buy a magazine to see them. They are right here. It's at my seat. It's right in a device. So much of that is right there. So it's right there, and it's glorious. I mean, it's neat. It's cool. It's all there. And it's powerful. In fact, it's very, it's very physically, mentally pleasing to look at your phone and see, somebody said something or whatever. So there's that draw to the phone and those things. So in one sense, to just review, the world and everything that's there with it is I don't know that it's any more evil, but it's closer to us, and it's easier to get to. So it's not that the world's worse, it's just easier for us, and especially this is more, it's something that young people have a harder time dealing with because they're young. We all had to face the world at a certain time in our life, but we had more time to grow. We had more time to mature, and then we were struck with, whoa, okay, am I going to do what's right or am I not? young people today aren't getting as much time as all of us to grow up. It's there. And if you're sitting there saying, well, I have kids at Bible Club. I have a 3-year-old at Bible Club who talks about his tablet, okay? And his 6-year-old brother thinks it's unfair that he got a tablet because he had to wait till he was 5 to get his phone. Okay, so the world is right here, and it's right around us. So we need all hands on deck. We can't depend on the Sunday school teachers and the preachers and the people that have teaching positions to help one another. This passage tells us the aged men, the aged women, the young men, everybody has a responsibility. Titus is to teach them to do these things. So this is the focus that I'm going with this. I'm teaching, but I'm teaching us. I want us to realize we all have a responsibility. We can't say, look at those teenagers. Yeah, whatever. I'm so glad Pastor Smith's coming along. Maybe he'll fix them. Well, if you have an influence in their life, or you can have an influence in your life, you need to take that. It's our responsibility. It's not the pastors and the teachers. This passage, I believe, tells us that we have that. So I want to just then think about our Fairhaven lifestyle. And most of you, this is what class? Empty nesters. So we've been around for a while. Most of you have been around here for a while. Think about the old days. Think about the old days. Our Fairhaven lifestyle has been greatly usurped by the fantastic technologies that we have around us. In the old days, nobody had a TV in their house. Now, we may still not have TVs in our house, right? But TV is on everybody's device. It's on everybody's device. It's right there. Even if the people we're concerned about, and I'm concerned about our teenagers, and I'm concerned about them because I've been working with what they've become, the young singles. Okay? I'm greatly concerned. And so these lessons are me teaching and begging for you to help all of us. Because if we don't help these teenagers and young singles grow into mature Christians, we won't have an empty nesters class in 30 years. And we will, but I'm not that pessimistic. But it will take all of us doing our jobs. So growing up, I saw a TV on my birthday, on my sister's birthdays, on a special holiday. I saw a TV. If we went to Grandma's house in Midlothian, watch Adam 12. You know? But I couldn't watch MASH. That's communist or something like that. Okay? It was evil. I don't even know the tune. So anyway, but my point is, nowadays, all those shows are readily accessible and current, up to date, readily accessible. We say, well, our kids don't have phones. They know people that have phones. And even if it's just innocent, hey, this was so funny. Look, it's not evil. It just enamors them. Because it enamors us still. And they're like, ooh, that's neat. What else? And they've watched 2 or 3 in 10 minutes. And then what do they want to do the next time they see that kid? So they're seeing, even if they have no TV in their house, even if they don't have any device, they're seeing more TV than we did growing up. Think about growing up here. No Christian radio, right? WMBI, the local Christian rock station, okay? We didn't have good Christian radio around us. So it was just, you don't need Christian radio. It's worse than listening to the news because it's bad, but it says it's good. I mean, there's Christian radio around now, but we don't even need Christian radio. Just say, hey, Siri, play me some Christian music. What's Siri going to choose for your Christian music? Okay? Pandora, play me some Christian music. Thumbs down. Skip. You've run out of skips. Right? Even abiding radio. My point is, Christian radio even Christian music is more accessible to us now, easier to get to in a private way, more private way now than it was back then. And anytime you have that kind of radio, you are not in control of what comes on the radio. It's not your radio station. It's somebody else's radio station. So what happens? Even if you're listening to the newest one, the Joy or Key or whatever, they have some good music on there, but then music comes across there that we wouldn't ever play here, sing here. Is it evil, wicked? Maybe, maybe not, but it's not us. But you listen to that and you're like, well, what does that cause? That causes questioning our church. Okay? In young people's minds, you want to listen to it, but we don't do that. We never did that as church members because we were protecting our kids. That protection is gone. I'm not saying you don't keep it around, but the time when a young person has to learn for themselves, not learn, but decide for themselves whether they're going to go with what they've been taught all their lives, is way sooner than it was for me. How about this? Somebody gets their nose turned the wrong way and their heart turned the wrong way, and they don't like Fairhaven anymore. And whether it's for a good reason or not, they are antagonistic. They're against Fairhaven. And I don't think there's any good reason for that to happen, but let's just say they're justified. Of course, they're always justified. They move away. When they moved away before, how did you keep contact with that person? You had to dial the phone number, and they had a different phone number. They're in a different place, or maybe they're still in the area. It's very hard to keep contact with that person who hates Fairhaven. And I don't mean to lift up Fairhaven. We do have some guests here. But when you've grown up at Fairhaven, Fairhaven is Christianity. They hate Christianity. We don't equal Christianity, but if they've turned from this, they hate God. They're flaunting how they don't have to do that and they don't have to do that. I don't even see them. They're riding their bike on their street 2-3 towns over, or they move to another. So what? But now, that person that leaves and hates Fairhaven, everybody can still see how much, even more. I mean, what do? They post a picture on their social media, on Instagram or Facebook or wherever. And you say, well, my kids don't see that. Yes, they do. Or, not your kids. Our kids, our church kids don't see that. Yes, they do. I don't go over there and look into it, but you wouldn't, numbers of times, more than once, many times, I see a teenager standing next to a 20-year-old looking at a phone. What's going on there? I'm not saying it's evil or wicked, but when the 20-year-old has the attitude that he's going to correct everything that Fairhaven did wrong for the 20 years of his life that he was here, I don't think anything good is happening there. If I go there and look at it, is it going to be like, oh, that's wicked? No. But the 20-year-old is getting the 17-year-old wanting to like things that his parents don't want him liking at all. So he grew up, stay away from people who leave in the wrong way, who leave from what you know to be right. Those people now are just one tap of the phone away. And they have curated a look that says life is great. They curated an everything is better presence that's readily available to anyone, particularly our kids. So we need everyone helping. We need all hands on deck. So that's my introduction. That's why I come to this passage, and this passage came to me, I guess I would say, why studying. It's like, okay, we need everybody to help. It can't just be Pastor Smith or Pastor Dameron or Pastor Vogelin saying things. You know, I get up in chapel and preach, and everybody your age thinks it's a great sermon, and everybody and all of our kids say, I don't think he has the right to say that. And I'm generalizing by saying everybody, but I'm generally right. We have a problem. Is the church falling apart? No, but we need to do stuff with it. We need to work at it. And what we need, I think, especially by looking at this passage, is we need everybody coming along, young people, you know, not out of context, but you sit near them, you have a relationship with them, you see them straying, or even if you don't, we need to remind them, show them what real joyful Christianity is. Because there's another world out there, contemporary pop, fake Christianity is luring them. And they haven't lived long enough to have the maturity to easily hold that off. So, into our text. I would like to take this week and say, what should aged women be? The next time, what should aged women do? And the third time, what should aged women teach? We're going to see all that in these verses. Dr. Mitchell, so men, you can just skip, I guess, when, you know, Dr. Mitchell is going to take I don't know what he's going to title it, but what about the aged men? First, so if we look in our passage, verse 3 is the one for tonight. The aged women likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things. So what is it that ladies should be? First, they should be in behavior as becometh holiness. They should be in behavior as becometh holiness. The verse says, the aged women likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness. Before we even get to the becoming holiness, there's the likewise. So likewise means all the holy traits mentioned with the aged men. And Dr. Mitchell is going to cover those. But those include sobriety, gravity, temperance, soundness in faith, charity, patience. All these things, the ladies, likewise, what they were told you should be also, and then in behavior as becometh holiness. So what does that mean? The thought there in that phrase, as becometh holiness, is even to be like, so use your imagination, to be like a priestess. Now when we think priestess, we think paganism or whatever, but because we're talking to women, we're not going to say priest. A priest always acts a certain way. Okay? Now cast out the exceptions to that. A priest, the idea is you live in such a way that it's like you're a priest or a priestess. So a priest always is doing something in a certain way, in a holy way, in a religious way. What he's trying to say is that everything you do should be done in a holy way. If there's something that you do that can't be done in a holy way, don't do it. Non-church duties should be done as if they were church duties. Okay, so I hope I might be confusing things. But ladies, if you go to the grocery store and shop, Okay, that's not the same as a church duty, but it should be done as if you were going to church. Not saying that you dress up and, but you should do it with the same holiness, the same sobriety, gravity, temperance, charity, patience, as you would any other thing in your life. For a believer, nothing is secular. All things are sacred. I can't remember which past preacher I was reading about this, but we should be holy in clothing and in gesture, in looks and in speech, in deportment, in character. All of these things should match our profession. The point is just really being a consistent Christian. You say you're a Christian, people shouldn't question that. People in your life on Thursday morning or Tuesday afternoon shouldn't say, I'd have never known. Oh, at least I'm blending in fine. That's not a good thing. We should be in behavior as becometh holiness. Then, one more thing. That becoming holiness, the idea is, where am I? I have that point. I'm sorry. So the idea of becoming is the idea of being suitable. So our behavior, all of our behavior should be behavior that's suitable to being holy. That's the idea of becometh or becoming. So many things around us, and especially the further we get into civilization and advancements in civilization, many things around us don't have a verse addressing them. Telephones aren't in the Bible. The Bible doesn't tell us how to use telephones. Crack pipes are not in the Bible. And they're not. So anything that the Bible doesn't talk about, we just do. The Bible doesn't care. No, of course not. So many things around us don't have a verse addressing them in Scripture, but there are verses to help with all of these. And there's many, but I'll just give you two others beside this one. 1 Corinthians 10:31 says that everything that we do should be done to the glory of God. Philippians 4, verse 8 says that we're to, whatsoever things are pure, honest, true, I'm in the wrong order, just, good report, if there be virtue, if there be, think on these things. Okay, so that's something. And here, the things we do in our life, Paul says they should be things becoming of holiness. So if you're looking at your life, and I don't want to send you all out as like spies on the singles, but you're in this church with a single, and you see them doing something, you say, that doesn't seem holy, and God gives you opportunity, you talk to them, say, well, what does the Bible say about it? Well, the Bible says we're to live in a way that is suitable to holiness. Just because the Bible doesn't say crack pipes, not anything about crack pipes, doesn't mean we can just go use them, smoke, sniff, whatever it is that you do with them. So, the second thing that we're to be is be not false accusers. So, the aged women, likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers. Be not false accusers. You know the word there for false accuser is diabolos. It's translated in 1 Timothy as a slanderer, so false accuser, slanderer. That's what the devil does. He accuses us to the Lord of everything evil and wicked. So at our age, and I'm putting myself with you, at our age, it's quite natural to know what's going on, right? You see that person, I know what they're doing, right? We've been around. We know what's going on in the mind of somebody else. We've been there. We were their age before. We are one, Okay, I'm a guy. I know what's going on in his mind. And we could be right. But knowing that, it makes us feel important. When we give that knowledge, and I'm putting it like this because we don't really know that, do we? When we give that knowledge to someone else and not to that person, if I see somebody and I say, man, I know what's going on there, I should go to that guy and say, hey, you're doing this. When I was your age, I wanted to do that too. I did that too, or whatever. Talk to them. But if we go that, if I go to someone else and say, hey, did you see what he's doing? I know what they're doing. They're doing this, and they're probably doing this and this and this because we know. Okay, that's being a false accuser. When we give that knowledge to someone else and not to them, it's slander, gossip, false accusation. It's the work of the devil. Go talk to them or close your mouth, even to your husband. I'm putting myself in there, to your spouse, but the verses are right now are addressing ladies. So be not false accusers. The third thing, be not given to much wine. So wine, of course, is a substance and an activity being given to it that captures or enslaves. Now, I don't know that is much of an issue here, but I do know that there are other things that this principle would apply to. This principle would surely apply to other areas, even for teetotalers. I'm sure there's things in our lives, and we should just think about them. Ladies, in particular, this is addressed to you. Is there something in my life? I don't drink. I don't sit around whatever. But is there something in your life that enslaves you, that captures you? And we'll just leave that there. And then the fourth thing is to be teachers of good things. Now, this is not in contradiction to 1 Corinthians, where the Bible tells that a woman shouldn't teach in the church or whatever, or to 1 Timothy, but it tells us, so not, you're to be teachers of good things, but not in those positions, but that you're still to teach good things. Be an example, or teach by example and by word, of course. Shouldn't teach old wives' fables, no superstitious customs or rites and ceremonies. I'm not saying I know anything about you ladies, but I know generally in the world, older ladies get going and they fill in the young ladies about things that are not Christian at all, and those shouldn't be named among us. Now in the intrigues of love and not the things of filthy, not of things filthy or obscene, I'm quoting from another man. But instead, we should be teaching things that are solid and substantial, useful and improving, honest and honorable, chaste and pure. We're to teach good things. Ladies, this is a command. It's not just for Mrs. Dameron's Sunday school class. We're to be teachers of good things. And I would just say, if you're uncomfortable with something, at least do the good things. Teach the good things. You say, I don't want to confront people. Then just teach the good things. Show young ladies what's good and what's right. They're headed maybe toward bad, maybe not toward bad. They're wishy-washy. Show them what's good. Show them how what's good is great. Show them how what's good is a life worth living. Teach good things. I would say you shouldn't neglect the negative, but the phrase says, be teachers of good things. And so that's verse 3. And we'll pick up there and think some more about what should be done, which is in the next verse, in the next phrase. Where is it over here? That they may teach the young women. And we'll review and then expand on that in the next time.